Welcome back everyone, it is Mike from ManaHoarders. In this video we are bringing you a commander deck tech for a mono red commander, Krenko Mob Boss. You can cast Krenko for 2 and 2 red, you get a 3/3 legendary goblin warrior. You can tap Krenko to create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. Now with this commander deck tech we are trying to break the mold, meaning we are taking an established commander and trying to build it in a different, unique way than what is normally seen. Now I think it's fair to say the most popular strategy for this commander is a go wide strategy. You're going to be running lots of Goblin Tribal, that way when Krenko taps you generate tons of tokens. Now you can either swing all out at your opponents and swarm them and win the game that way, or win through indirect damage through things such as Impact Tremors and Perforos God of the Forge. Now in this deck tech we are trying to do things a little bit differently. Now obviously with this ability stapled onto our commander, it'd be foolish not to use this to our advantage, but we are trying to win in a way that our opponents won't expect. Now once we have a good host of goblins, we want to sacrifice these for value. We have plenty of cards in this deck that care about us sacrificing goblins specifically, so the more we have, the more benefit we can gain. We also have some creatures with a devour mechanic, meaning whenever they enter we can sacrifice some creatures we control and they'll enter with some +1/+1 counters on them. And last but not least, we have plenty of cards with fling type effects, meaning we can sacrifice creatures we control and literally throw them at our opponents and their creatures to deal some damage. Now in terms of power level, I'm not too sure how I rate this deck. The purpose of this experiment is try and build a commander in a way that is not normally seen, so power levels will vary. Now the final price for this build came in at $80.02. This does include the price of our commander and all of our lands. Now do bear in mind these prices will vary greatly depending on the quality of the cards you purchase, the vendor you use, and a variety of other factors. Now let's go ahead and dive into the deck with our artifacts. Conjurer's Closet allows us to blink a creature at our end step to generate value from ETBs. Fire Diamond can tap to give us a red mana. Gate to the Afterlife, we're really only concerned with the top half. Whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we can gain a life, then we can draw a card, and if we do, we'll discard. Hammer of Perforos gives our creatures haste. Mind Stone can tap to give a colorless mana, we can also sacrifice it to draw a card. Skull Clamp can generate a ton of value, the equipped creature gets +1/-1, and whenever it dies, we will draw 2 cards. Sky Shaper we can sacrifice to give all creatures we control flying until end of turn. And Soul Ring can tap to give us 2 colorless mana. Moving on to our enchantments, Barrage of Expendables we can pay a red, sacrifice a creature and deal 1 damage to any target. Goblin Warrens we can pay 2 and a red, sack 2 goblins to get 3 goblin tokens. Heat Wave makes it so blue creatures cannot block creatures we control, and non-blue creatures cannot block unless their controller pays 1 life for each blocking creature. Prophetic Ravings gives the enchanted creature haste, it can also tap to discard and draw us a card. Raid Bombardment, whenever a creature we control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker the creature is attacking. Shivan Harvest, we can pay 1 and a red and sacrifice a creature to destroy target non-basic land. And Weaponize the Monsters, we can pay 2, sack a creature and deal 2 damage to any target. Moving on to our instants, Abrade deals 3 damage to target creature or destroys target artifact. Battle Hymn gives us a red mana for each creature we control. Brightstone Ritual does much the same for each goblin we control. Desperate Ritual will give us 3 red mana. Fling, we can sacrifice a creature and deal damage equal to that creature's power to target creature or player. Pyretic Ritual also gives us 3 red mana. Shatter can destroy target artifact. Thrill of Possibility, we can discard a card to draw 2. And Valakut Awakening, we can put any number of cards from our hand on the bottom of our library and then draw that many cards +1. For our sorceries, Burn at the Stake. This card is amazing in any token deck that has red. As an additional cost, we can tap any number of untapped creatures we control. Then Burn at the Stake deals damage to target creature or player equal to 3 times the number of creatures tapped this way. Cathartic Reunion, we can discard 2 to draw 3. Cosmotronic Wave deals 1 damage to each creature our opponents control, and those creatures can't block. Crash Through gives creatures we control trample, and we will draw. Dragon Fodder gives us 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Hordling Outburst gives us 3 goblin creature tokens. Infernal Plunge, as an additional cost we will sack a creature to get 3 red mana. Krenko's Command gives us 2 goblins. Seize the Spoils, as an additional cost we'll discard a card to draw 2 and create a treasure token. Thud, we'll sacrifice a creature to deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Tormenting Voice, we'll discard a card in order to draw 2. And Warlord's Fury, creatures we control gain first strike until end of turn, and we will draw a card. Moving on to our creatures, we do have some legends helping out our commander. Felden of the Third Path, we can pay 2 and a red, tap him and create a token that's a copy of target creature card in our graveyard, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, and we will sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Gadrak the Crown Scourge, can't attack or block unless we control 4 or more artifacts, but at the beginning of our end step we create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. Krenko 10 Street Kingpin, whenever he attacks he gets a 1/1 counter. Then we will create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to his power. Pashlik Mons, whenever Pashlik or another goblin we control dies, he deals 1 damage to any target. We can also pay 3 and a red and sack a goblin to create 2 goblins. Patron of the Aki, it has Goblin Offering. Whenever he attacks, creatures we control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Perforos Bronze Blooded gives our creatures haste. It also has the sneak attack ability. For 2 and a red, we can put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from our hand onto the battlefield and then sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. And for our not so legendary creatures, Airdrop Condor, we can pay 1 and a red to sacrifice a goblin. Then the Condor deals damage equal to the goblin's power to target creature or player. Anger is a 2/2 with haste, and as long as it's in our graveyard and we control a mountain, creatures we control have haste. Arms Dealer, we can pay 1 and red and sack a goblin to deal 4 damage to target creature. Beetleback Chief, whenever it enters we get 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Bloodmark Mentor, red creatures we control have first strike. Bargadin Dragonheart, we can sacrifice another creature and it becomes a 4/4 dragon with flying and haste until end of turn. Chancellor of the Forge, whenever it enters it has a potential to generate a ton of goblin tokens. Dark Dweller Oracle, we can pay 1, sacrifice a creature and exile the top card of our library. We can cast that card this turn. Our Goblin Surgeon himself, we can sacrifice a goblin to regenerate target creature. Goblin Instigator, whenever it enters it will bring a token with it. Goblin Lookout, we can tap it, sacrifice a goblin, and all goblins get +2/+0 until end of turn. Goblin Soothsayer, we can pay a red, tap it, and sacrifice a goblin, and all red creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. Goblin War Chief makes our goblins cheaper, and it gives all of our goblins haste. Mog War Marshal, whenever it enters or dies, we will get a goblin token. Predator Dragon, it has flying, haste, and devour 2. As this card comes into play, we can sacrifice any number of creatures. Then this creature comes into play with twice that number of 1/1 counters on it. Prey Caesar Dragon does much the same with flying and devour 2. However, whenever it attacks, it deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Shrieking Mog has haste, and whenever it enters, it'll tap all other creatures. Siege Gang Commander, whenever it enters, we will get 3 goblins. We can also pay 1 and a red, sacrifice a goblin, and deal 2 damage to any target. Skirk Prospector allows us to sacrifice our goblins to add red mana. Surtland Flinger, whenever it attacks, we can sacrifice another creature. When we do, Surtland Flinger deals damage equal to the sacrifice's creature's power to any target, and if the sacrificed creature was a giant, it deals twice that damage instead. Voracious Dragon has Devour 1, and whenever it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target creature or player equal to twice the number of goblins it devoured. And Wily Goblin, whenever it enters the battlefield, we will get a treasure token. And last but not least is our mana base. Being in a single color deck, we do have the benefit of being able to run all basic lands. So as a result, we are running 35 basic mountains. And just like that, we reached the end of this Break the Mold Commander deck tech. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what commanders you would like to see us break the mold for in the future. And as always, we really appreciate the support.